Mic check 1 2 1 2. Hello everyone. Give me 1 second just to get everything sorted out, but as soon as that is done, we will get going with this live. Um, let's do. Yeah, so we got a lot to discuss in the next few minutes here, so you might want to stick tight, and we'll kind of decipher everything together here over the next little bit. Just figuring out some things here real quick before we get really underway. Posting the social media platforms sometimes can be a little while. Can be a little bit of a pain, but it is what it is. Let me kind of get everything set here, and we will go to MRMS, and we will talk about everything here. So, yes, this winter storm is now fastly approaching. It has been hyped. It has been talked about for several days. We got a line of thunderstorms, some of them severe, going across the Mississippi River Valley at this moment. And then we have this cold sector to the north, basically from the Ohio River Valley back northward towards the Great Lakes, that is really, really strong. We have had issues with ice out in the heartland areas of, let's say, southern Kansas, southern Missouri. We've had issues with ice and mixing in and around the Ohio River Valley, spanning from Paducah to Louisville. It's still ongoing now. There's a thin band of snow right now because of the temperature contrast, basically from Indy to Cincy to Charleston, West Virginia. That's where a lot of the wintry precipitation is, and it's knocking on our doorstep at the moment. So what I want to do is I want to give an idea of what is going on right now at this time. Get that posted, and then we will talk in detail. All right. So with that said, let's jump right into what we know at this moment in terms of watches and warnings. Let's get into this here, and I'm gonna do next round. And I'm gonna turn this off for a second just so you can see the exact watches and warning situation going on. I do have a ticker rolling at the bottom of the screen if you can't already tell. We do have winter storm warnings for the entire, and I do mean the entire state. So everybody, doesn't matter if you're in Garrett County, Anne Arundel, Howard, Montgomery, if you're in Wycomico or Worcester County, everybody is under a winter storm warning right now. Let's go over region by region because they did separate these by region here. So this winter storm warning for Garrett County and extreme western Allegheny County, a foot, actually between 10 and 15 inches, so around a foot average of snow, up to a foot and a half in isolated spots if heavy banding sets up. And then for, let's say, western Allegheny County, and I think this also includes Washington as well. Uh, yes. Washington, does this include Frederick? I think, no, actually, it's Washington and just Washington and Allegheny, the rest of Allegheny County, between 8 to 12 inches of snow, up to 16 if heavy bands do set up. Now, for the heart of the state, let's talk about Frederick County, Carroll County, Baltimore County. Let's talk Central Maryland here. Between 5 and 10 inches of snow, up to a foot if heavy banding sets up. And it looks like it's going to be down in southern Maryland that we are the most concerned about that. In particular, PG County, Anne Arundel County, Northern Charles, Calvert County. Let's say between Highway 5 and US 50. That's where the bullseye looks to be, at least for right now. And then they could get some big time snowfall out on the eastern shore as well, which doesn't usually happen, but here we go. 6 to 10 inches of snow, rather light glaze of ice as well on top of that across the central and northern Delmarva. 8 to 12, Dorchester County, Wycomico, Somerset, Worcester County. That's going to be one of our bullseye locations as well, at least as it holds right now in terms of what we could get. So that is the rundown in terms of warnings. Let me give you a timeline here, and for that, we're going to take off our warnings here for a second, and then we're going to take off our frontal positions. I think I inadvertently changed it. I'm sorry. Let's go to OBS again. We'll do other space. I'm sorry, y'all. Getting used to I moved my stuff around to a different streaming software, so I'm still getting used to everything. So forgive me on that one. But here we are in terms of the blank canvas. I will put on our models. And I will break this down, let's say, model by model here. So let's talk about our two big global models here. For that, I might just switch around some stuff. So let me just make sure I got my sources right. I'm going to do... Let's do this. Do this. Monitor, we'll add a source. I'll do... Okay. Actually, no. Do this. Interesting. I'll have to look at that in a second. Do this. Okay. Okay, we're going to call this... go. And then we will kick it over there. All right, there we go. And I'll just show you these one by one because I think this is a better browser to do it. And I will go to, let's do Pivotal for this. I would like to use Pivotal, 18ZGFS, mostly in. So we got new data that's coming in for this right now, and I can just show you what it's indicating. Now, as it stands in Metro Baltimore, we're getting around 3 to 5 inches, locally up to half a foot in some locations, especially south of I-70. So that is something to consider. But once you get, let's say, south of the airport, oh boy, those totals go up. You talk 7, 8, 9 inches of snow for places like, let's say, Landover, for places like Waldorf and La Plata and Accokeek, Chesapeake Beach, Dares Beach, Prince Frederick, Charlotte Hall. I mean, this thing's keying in on potentially 2 feet of snow near Leathertown. I don't want to be so specific with that, but you get a general idea. If we get any heavy banding setting up in any of these locations, these totals can easily be rather significant. So that's why I'm so concerned about it. Um, let's check out Kuchera just to be curious. I mean, this is like worst case scenario because this is like the Kuchera ratio, and sometimes these are a little bit off. The Kuchera is called in around 6 inches of snow. Even then, I think you get the idea. We're in the general ballpark with the GFS model of around half a foot with this. Um, let's switch over. Do I have Euro that I can take? Of course, it's going to be the 12Z because the 18Z for Euro does not kick in until later. So, looking at the Euro, this is the 12Z run from earlier in the day. It indicated a 5.5. So, I think the two major models are now in some sort of agreement that we will have heavy snowfall in the central and southern half of the state. We are in that range. And even in the metro, the 5.5 inches is no slouch. But down in southern Maryland, it could be real bad. Let's do one more thing here. I'm gonna check some of our convective models, and for that, I'm gonna go back to our radar display, and we're gonna do this. I wonder which one of the H triple. This is 21Z, so this may not have it. I'm gonna just run it just to check out curiosity. No. Well, to some degree. This is through 10 a.m. in the morning, by the way. And I can pull on the inspector tool. We're talking 7 to 8 inches down south around the metro. We're keying in around half a foot. So there's starting to become some agreements, at least at through 10 a.m. Now, if I take the 18Z run from earlier, the full run, and every 6 hours it does like a full 24-hour run, the H triple R. I want to see how this lines up in terms of snowfall totals. It was talking for the entire event around 8 inches of snow. And also remember, there's going to be a secondary blast of snow on the back end of this Monday night. So those totals could easily go up as well. Let's talk precip type here. And this is just the radar imagery. So you can see what actually happens. This is a big, like, 48-hour scan that they do every 6 hours with the H triple R. We're at 21Z now, so in 3 hours' time, we will have another big 48-hour scan, and I may get an update for that one. But you can see the heavy banding setting up south of the metro here on the 18Z. But watch what happens on the back end, and I think the GFS also keys in on this. Another round of heavier snow on the back end of this for the evening hours that could increase totals yet again. So it is a multi-tiered threat that we do have to consider. Another thing that I want to note, we do have a changeover at some point down the line. The question becomes when and how significant will it impact the snowpack that remains afterwards. because you can see heavy snow down southern Maryland in the lower Delmarva. But watch that rain snow line lift north throughout the late morning, early afternoon. You can see it gets to about the US 50 corridor down in the lower Delmarva. And I'm talking Dorchester, Wycomico, Somerset, Worcester counties here, the lower Delmarva. And it gets up to about Lexington Park, that mixing line. If that starts getting more north, that can mean one of two things. Number one, we get more snow in the metro. Number two, there's more mixing down in the central and southern Maryland counties, the DC suburbs, so to speak, and also the middle portions of the eastern shore. That's another thing we have to consider if this track does try to shift north. But I think right now, the way we are looking, yes, the snow amounts will be relatively lesser, but it will be predominantly snow across the northern half of the state, north of US 50, so to speak, and then potential mixing south of US 50, especially with the back end of this on the evening commute Monday. I mean, this is 5 o'clock on the HRRR, the 18Z run. Look at that. That's a mess across the southern half of the state. That could be a pain to deal with. And then I'm going to look at the latest run that we have, the 21Z. Pardon me. I think we'll note some of the same things. All right, I need to do 20Z here. We'll go back to 21 because I think it wasn't responding. All right, 21Z should pop this up for us. There we go. I'm going to see how this approaches. So here's our timeline. Late this evening, this starts getting into our western counties, according to the HRRR. By 1 a.m., most locations are getting in on snow, and this continues throughout the overnight. Now, this is 10 a.m. in the morning. You got the heavy snow setting up to the south, but it's predominantly snow here in the metro, and it will stay snow for the most part. The question is, do we get some of those heavier bands that go along to the south? I think the answer to that is slowly leaning towards snow, but we'll have to wait and see, especially as we get later into the night and see how this all unfolds. But again, there is your situation, and the rain snow line is starting to creep again. So there you go. It's starting to creep north. It's already in the Virginia Peninsula, up the southern portions of the Chesapeake Bay. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm going to look at the GFS here and see what that is seeing as well, at least from this particular view. And let's do, there we go. This one's taking a little faster, I think. I mean, here is 7 or 8 o'clock. This is already moving into our far western counties. By 10 p.m., it's areas along the Potomac River that are starting to get in on this. And by 1 a.m., everybody's getting snow. And then there's that rain snow line. It's getting further north. The question becomes, how far north does it go based on the track of the system? And right now, that GFS is taking it basically to about the Potomac River in terms of the rain snow line. We'll see what happens after that. And then the round on the back end of this, that could bring some more snow heading into the evening hours Monday as well. So that is the basic general timeline that we do have. Now, let me go back and check this special weather statement that we had earlier. Also, I'm going to plug in my computer. I hope this doesn't throttle it and make my stream go crazy, but we'll see. Weather page. Let's do KLWX. Alright, let's try the weather page. There it is. Okay, So, based on this special weather statement from the National Weather Service, and I have it here on a different monitor screen, um, this is relating to D.C., Frederick County, Carroll County, Baltimore County, Prince George's, Anne Arundel, Charles St. Mary's, Calvert. Basically, the whole forecast area for the National Weather Service, Sterling. So that includes some Virginia counties, some West Virginia counties as well, I believe. Um, Heavy snow and hazardous travel across the Baltimore Washington metro area Monday morning. Be prepared for hazardous travel conditions Monday morning. Heavy snow at times will move across the metro areas Monday morning, most likely between 4 and 10. Rates of 1 to 3 inches per hour are possible, which can make travel nearly impossible at times or at least very dangerous. It is highly recommended to delay any travel that is not necessary. So that's just the wording, and they want to get that out to as many people as they can. Now, I'm curious. Day of preparedness that was declared by Governor Moore, by the way. So that's for this upcoming system that is about to strike. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, with everything, so we just have to try to keep tabs on everything as much as we can, given the situation that is currently here. Um, just checking some other things, but I think that's pretty much the get down of everything. I want to look at the climate, the almanac for BWI. We only got the 33 this afternoon, by the way. We started out at 19 this morning, and we should be at 44 and 26 respectively. So yes, we are in a very cold air mass, and this could lead to problems with a bunch of different things. Real quickly, I want to go back to MRMS and just show you what's going on with this particular system. We'll turn on the fronts. We'll turn on our alerts as well. And then we'll change this to winter weather, and I will just show you what's been going on. This is a big system, a powerful system that has caused issues from the Central Plains all the way through the Ohio Valley thus far. And we got some time, but man, it time's running short for us before we get blasted by this system. So that is why I am so concerned right now and why I'm on live, because just to try to get as much awareness as we can to the situation as possible. So, looking at the current landscape of things, and I'm actually going to go to our radar, our local radar here. I'm going to look at, let's do this. Okay, snow's starting to filter in apparently across West Virginia. I'm going to check our traffic cams here in Maryland, so give me 1 second just to try to get the traffic cams going. Let's do an interactive map for this one, and I'm going to go out to Garrett County on this. I'm going to try a couple cameras first. Let's try Table Rock. That's the most southern camera in Garrett County. There might be snow falling. No, they did get some good snow on Friday, so I don't know if that's the storm right there. But I can probably try to get a good camera here. Let's try. As far as I see on cameras here, I don't see much right now, at least, but that will filter in over the next few hours. We gotta break through a dry layer of air, I would assume. Let me just check some things real quick. We're gonna do soundings. Soundings. I think this is gonna be. Do the sounds across the entire region. So let me just. There we go. All right, let me just transition this over for you, and we can talk about this real quick. Yeah, there's that cap. That's the layer of dry air, and let me see if I can do this. Breeze. Um, let's add a new whiteboard to this real quick. I can't add a whiteboard, but I'll just note this for you, and I think I might have a way to illustrate things. No. Darn. But you see where our green line kind of inverts itself? Right here around, let's say, 600 millibars. Right here where my cursor is. It just spikes back to the left, or to the right, I should say. That's our temperature moisture inversion here. That kind of like how we have the cap during severe weather. Whatever moisture that we are going to have needs to break through this rather dry layer of air that's still sitting around. So that's the problem that we do have in terms of getting the initial snowfall. But the second we break through and our moisture levels come up enough to really cause those issues, now we can look at it and say, okay, now we got a situation ongoing now. You can see how it that temperature inversion tightens up, but you can see it's broadened out here for now. Best guess precip type, it's at none, and then snow, of course. This is Wilmington, Ohio, which is like the Cincinnati office, and then Nashville. You can see those inversions are not too large, but you can see the gap there in terms of the moisture and the temperature in the parcel there. And then we have the inversion still in terms of the cold air that would be sufficient enough to really freeze anything. But you notice Pittsburgh right now has a little bit more favorable profile, and then you could see Wilmington definitely has that favorable profile, and that's Wilmington, Ohio again. That's near Cincinnati. That's where they've had some of the snow earlier. So I'm just taking a look at everything and from an analytical perspective, and that is why. And also, it's just above freezing in terms of the precipitation, the air parcel, and how saturated it is. But watch as it gets towards the surface how it just dips in temperature. This is Celsius. So imagine 0 as 32 Fahrenheit. That's a freezing point. Watch how it just goes down. That is why we got freezing rain and sleet and all these different problems going on across the Ohio River Valley, simply because of that temperature inversion and how it relates to how cold it is just above the surface, how warm it is just above the surface, but the second it approaches the surface, it gets really, really cold. And ice storms are the biggest pain in the rear. So that's a little bit of an analytical perspective on things and how I see it, at least. But that is the whole summary of what we have thus far. There might be rain down in Richmond. I'm not sure. Let me just check the Yeah, there's some precipitation in Richmond right now. That is going to be rain, but up here not much for the time being. Maybe actually a little bit of rain here. This is going to be near Tall Timbers, Scotland, and Dameron. This is far southern St. Mary's County, but even then, I think it might be a little challenging for that precipitation to be hitting the ground. If it does so, it'd be very light rain for the time being. But once we break through that dry layer, and we will probably be doing so quickly, we got problems. We got big problems in terms of our precipitation totals. And also, there's severe weather, so I've been seeing some of the profiles for the soundings out in the southern portions of the United States as well. They got all sorts of problems with severe weather. I mean, severe thunderstorm warnings across Mississippi right now. They've had some across eastern Texas earlier this afternoon. The Shreveport area, you can see the wind damage reports there. The small black circles there with the house damage icon. You can see that going from near Tyler through Shreveport, and then that line just continued. And that's where the cold front is right now, by the way. This cold front and this system will not clear out of here probably until late tomorrow evening. So, got a long time to deal with this. And how far north does that warm front get into the warm sector for us? That's a good question. That's remains to be seen. So, that is basically the rundown of everything for the time being. Just in review, everybody's under a winter storm warning. Everybody will get a different type of threat with this system in the metro. We may have some of the lower totals statewide, but even then, we're talking could be up to half a foot. So, still very much aggressive in terms of the totals that we could be getting, especially in our western counties and our southern counties. One more thing. I'm curious about the NAM, because the NAM's been really trying to key in on the big storm. Let me take off the layers here so you can see this better. And actually, yeah, let's keep this on. Let's turn the fronts off. The fronts are off. There we go. And we will pull up there. We'll pull up 3KM first, because NAM's been aggressive in runs during the week, and then during the early half of the weekend. Even this morning, it was still rather aggressive. So I'm curious to see if that has changed to some level. Well, no. It's been really pushing some of the heavier bands closer to Metro Baltimore. You see some of those grays there around DC, around, let's say, Landover, down to... Place is. I'm sorry. Tracy's Landing in the Deal area, near Deal, Chesapeake Beach. I had to try to test myself with geography here. That is where some of the heavier bands are trying to set up, and notice where that mixing line becomes more apparent in the early to mid morning hours. Southern Maryland, Charles County, St. Mary's County. It's been really trying to be aggressive with how intense this storm could be, and if this does turn out to be the case, that's a problem. And even then, I said the back end of this is going to be rather strong. I wonder what the snowfall totals are going to look like on the NAM 3KM. The NAM's been aggressive by far out of all of these. And if that were to be the case, oh boy, we got problems here in Metro Baltimore, to say the least. Let's talk total snowfall. The greens, I think we're starting to get into like a foot range around there. 15 inches. Now, again, the NAM has been, I want to stress this, and I'm going to bring myself in here for a second. Let's do face cam, and I'll bring myself in. And forgive me for the lighting. Actually, bring this down a little bit so you can see me better. I want to stress this right now. Actually, we'll do this. And we'll bring that over here. I want to fully stress this to you. The NAM has been an outlier. You know, I might as well bring it over here. I don't care. The NAM has been one of the key outlying models compared to all the other major ones. That and the HRRR. Now, the HRRR is aligned a little bit better even then, the convective models, the NAM and the HRRR, have been really, really, really aggressive for the Metro. And not only just for the Metro, Central and Southern Maryland. It's been really aggressive for the 270, the I-95 corridor going down to DC, the BW corridor, US 50, the I-97 corridor. It's been super aggressive in this part of the state for days in terms of the projections. So I'm going to take this with a heavy grain of salt. If, pardon me, our NAM, and I'm going to take off the inspector for this, and I'll let this load. Technology, it's great when it works, it's a pain when it doesn't, right? But I'm going to transition you out back to the full view. If the NAM ends up like this, and let's say the HRRR does relatively the same, which I think it's pretty much does. I can look at the 21 ZA run. We're getting 22 ZN. Again, 8 o'clock should be the, actually 22 Z's at 8. Yeah, by 9 o'clock we should get the new runs in for the 48-hour run of the HRRR. If the NAM and the HRRR, well, the HRRR is kind of taking it more south now. So it's kind of agreeing with the major models here, the GFS, for the most part now compared to earlier. Although I will say, let me check the snowfall totals, and we still would have several more hours of snowfall after this time frame. 10-1. Yeah, it's less aggressive. It's definitely less aggressive. So I think we could kind of come up with that consensus. Right now, I think the NAM may fall in line, but if it does something more in between those two, we're still going to have more significant snowfall. We'll see what happens with the NAM in coming hours, because if the NAM starts falling in line, I think it'd be more of a Southern Maryland type of deal. And I'll actually draw this in white so you can see this. So if the NAM falls in line, I think our big time bands are going to be really anywhere from here to here, are the ones that are really heaviest, with the semi-tier coming in here. Now, if it kind of remains as an outlier, then there's more of a possibility, very slight, but more of a possibility that our heavier bands may set up right here with a secondary tier that goes further north. And I'll actually draw this a little bit better. And we'll see what happens. But I think right now, the HRRR is starting to come into agreement to a certain level of degree. But we'll see what happens down the line as this system approaches. So there is that. And I'm comparing this to the GFS. GFS is, I think it's similar. Yeah, I really do. You know, it's loading it and everything right now, so it might be a minute, but I really do think this is loading. Very similar. I think it is looking fairly similar. I'm going to look at the 10 a.m. totals, and that will be the main teller of everything, I feel like. Not P-type. We're going to do 10-1 snowfall. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's GFS is trying to be a little bit more stingy with the 10 a.m. run, I will say, for the Metro in terms of how much snow we actually get. So the HRRR is still being a little bit more generous, slightly, but still more generous. And even on the back end of this, there could be another quick 2 to 3 inches of snow. And even then, 10 a.m., based on the timeline the GFS is indicating, there's still another opportunity for even more snow across the Metro through, let's say, midday before we get the second round that really blasts us. Let's say evening rush hour, somewhere within that 4 to 10 time frame for some of us. So like a major snowstorm for Southern Maryland. And unfortunately, I don't want to get too far ahead And again, I want to stress this. This is very early, preliminary. You look at next week, there's another system. And that may be a nor'easter type. And that's setting up well for next weekend. Ooh, Nelly. I mean, the timing's been off and on with this. Now, again, I don't even think that system's hit the West Coast yet, so I can't really say anything too much about. Yeah, it hasn't even hit the West Coast yet. This is probably going to be the convectus. If it's going to come from there, it's going to come from the Pacific Northwest. Collect some energy as it goes through the South. Yep. So, collect some energy in the Northwest. Gain steam if it were to do so. And depending on our temperature profiles next week, a nor'easter. But I'm looking at the latest guidance in terms of let's look at NBM real quick. I want to look at and I'm doing this on a different monitor, so forgive me for that, but I'm just looking at it. We are entering a colder pattern. Like temperatures are still going to be pretty cold heading into next week. It looks like, at least according to the NBM. I'm also going to look at the AFDs real quick because this is very preliminary. A lot of things can change, and I don't want to say too much, but a system next week could be a problem if the given dynamics do hold. And it's a pretty strong trough. That's great. um, and again, I'm really gonna stress this. That is early. A lot of things can change. It can divert paths. It could get caught up. But right now, that's something we may have to look at this time next week, and it could be something that could be rather significant. So we do have to keep our eyes on this system for next week. If, big key word here being if it were to hold. So, with that said, I'm gonna go off for now. What I'm gonna do more than likely is I'm gonna give another update when we get information in. That might be around 9:30. Maybe if the information comes in a little bit late, that might be a 10 o'clock update. But keep tuned to a source of weather information. It will be critical as we head throughout the evening and into tomorrow. Stay informed, stay safe, stay warm. I'm Jay Mitchell for 410 WX.